Hi, I'm Dave Barnes.
And I'm John McLaughlin.
And welcome to Dadville.
Dadville is a podcast where we talk about life, love, and the pursuit of awesome dadding.
It's funny thoughts and deep talks.
So please, enjoy your time here in Dadville and enjoy this episode with John and Dave and Elliott Cherry.
This episode is brought to you by Iams Pet Food. When you choose Iams dry dog or cat food, you can see a difference in your pet with your own eyes. Healthy energy in 5 days, healthy digestion in 10 days, and healthy skin and coat in just 25 days. Satisfaction for you and them. Guaranteed or your money back. Feed Iams dry dog or cat food and see a visible difference. Visit iams.com/difference to learn more.
You wouldn't know. I haven't seen you at church in a month, John.
Oh. Hey, your fault for putting them out on podcasts. Okay? I've got you right in my AirPods while I'm running, you know?
I really do want to hear what you, if you've listened to it, maybe you haven't, but on the Everything's Meaningless sermon, did you listen to my Ecclesiastes sermon? Life is meaningless.
No, but we did talk about it in our
small group. Yeah.
Let's start again. I love the way this is.
You know what's funny is
I
I told the small group, I was like, to be really honest, this might be a portion of the Bible that I connect with
more than anything.
But that's misleading for me to say because I don't feel like life is meaningless.
Yeah.
But just when he's talking about the wind blows this way, wind blows this way, and we watched that Bible Project video that is, of course,
it's
so good.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, yes.
Yeah.
I'm not crazy.
You're not crazy.
That's how I feel.
Ecclesiastes might be my favorite book in the Bible.
Yeah.
It's really, but I want to know I figured.
Well, I said it first.
Guys, y'all remember I'm here, right?
Yeah. Dave wouldn't get it because it's for deep people.
Yeah, it's for super deep people.
Dave skips over it. He goes straight to Revelation where everything's
happening. He goes straight for the fun ones.
Yeah. The first question I asked,
okay,
where are the dragons? And they said, flip to the end.
Revelation.
Do you have serpents? They were like, listen, you are
in
for
it. You in the
if
right
you love
place.
Lord of the Rings, head on back to the end.
Yeah.
Okay. Are we recording?
Oh, yeah, we've been recording.
Dang. Okay.
So do you have a music question?
This doesn't need to be how we start, don't we?
Well, it can be.
No. Because I need like an intro.
You keep talking about this music question that you.
Okay. This gets into a few meta things, but lifelong Coldplay fan. Coldplay, I think, is probably.
Listen to the new record yesterday.
Okay, this is my question.
This is my question.
I haven't heard it yet.
And then we'll talk about it.
And really quick for the listeners, Coldplay is a band from England, really great. You should check them out.
British band,
singer-songwriter, kind of piano,
4-piece.
Yeah,
4-piece. Yeah, it's really great.
Okay, really cool story I heard about Coldplay. Sorry, this is ADD everywhere, but pastor friend of mine had a guy in ministry, a ministry friend of his. He's 20 years older than me. Who his ministry friend did Young Life in the UK back in the 90s. Was at a Young Life camp.
I didn't even know that Young Life was there, honestly.
Yeah, I mean... Sorry, I was going to say something really inappropriate.
Let your congregants hear that dark part of you.
They don't listen to this. I told them not to.
They don't listen.
They're not allowed to. But the Young Life UK guy at a Young Life camp in the mid-90s had a little 14-year-old boy come up to him. He was speaking and playing music at the Young Life camp and said, "Hey, will you teach me how to play guitar? I'm watching you play guitar. I want to learn how to play guitar." So he spent the week with this kid, teaching him chords and basic stuff, and got his address. They corresponded on writing letters and how's it going.
To go where I feel like it's going.
And then he lost contact, and he asked and he moved back to the States, and he asked his buddy in the UK, whatever happened to that kid that I taught him to play guitar?
No.
Chris Martin.
No.
Oh, it was Chris Martin.
I got you. Dang it. Okay. That's where I was going with it.
Chris Martin learned how to play guitar at a Young Life camp.
No way.
Isn't that amazing?
Did they get proceeds from that?
They should.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he was like, whatever happened to Chris? Did he end up doing well? And it was like...
Yeah, he figured
it out.
I'm going to send you some stuff.
Yeah.
Check his stuff out.
Okay. Here's my question.
He's like, thanks for the Coldplay link, but what happened to the Chris guy?
Right. None of these are the chords I taught him.
By the way, for the music nerds, is there a greater moment in music than in Yellow with the minor 5 at the very end? What a master stroke. I digress.
I see. This is actually kind of what I want to ask about. I'm not musically trained, although I know when I hear bad music.
Don't look at us when you say that.
obsessed with Coldplay. I grew up on Coldplay. I'm like I love U2, but like I kind of came of age in Coldplay's era, so it was like they're my like anthems, right? Like that. I'm obsessed. Mm-hmm. Huge fan of their older stuff. Not as much of their newer stuff. Last 2 or 3 records are fine, but not. But there's moments on this record that I feel like, oh, there it is again. Mm-hmm. There it is. Mm-hmm. Like it's the old. Mm-hmm. This is what I like. Mm-hmm. They're not gone. Mm-hmm. And there's a couple songs where I'm like, I don't. It's fine. It's not like a straight through album that I could just listen to straight through. But so much of it feels like old magic to me in the Coldplay canon. But then I read
not
this
the song. You mean like as a
not old magic song? Yeah. The old Coldplay
like the old thing. The Pixie Dust.
Yes. But then I read this article online, someone just bashing the new album musically, saying this sounds like an AI computer could have made this.
What?
And I'm like, okay, this is my question to musicians. I don't know music. It feels like, from what I've been taught about Coldplay, like you just said, the minor 5. I don't even know what that means, but it feels like Coldplay does stuff, Chris in particular, that like kind of breaks musical rules like an AI computer wouldn't make, because it doesn't do the what you're expecting sort of thing.
Right.
So I want to know, like, is the wool over my eyes just because I want it to be true? And like, under this does sound like some of the old Pixie Dust Coldplay. This is it. They're there. Or is it like, no, AI is just, this was all so produced and it's not.
I wish that I had heard this record, but I haven't heard it. But I mean, every great record was bashed.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, okay.
You can find a bad review for anything.
Yeah.
You know?
Especially y'all's.
I was going to say, the best records get the worst reviews.
Exactly.
Is that for real?
So, no. But, you know, I think I want to say a couple things to that. Literally, I listened to some of it on a drive with the kids the other day, and they were kind of like, because it's so orchestral. You have to listen to it.
Yeah.
It's so orchestral. There's like 4 or 5 just piano things.
Yes.
It's really, really cool.
Yeah.
But they were kind of like, all right, Dad, this is like, we've given you 6 songs. Can we do something else? And then we listened to Forrest Frank for 4 hours straight, which is fine. But listening to it, the two things. So first of all, quickly to your first point, I think the thing with a band like Coldplay that people have to give a lot of grace for, especially people who are like, man, I loved, the first 2, right? Mm-hmm. The thing that non-musical people, it's hard to understand that when you grow to the size that Coldplay grew to, you have to write music for those spaces.
Right.
You can't keep doing, songs that
same
sound
exact,
like what's the Spies? That song is great. It doesn't translate in the stadium.
Right. Yeah.
And so you kind of have to have these songs, and you find this a lot with bands that get big. U2 is, one of the greatest cases. You have to write to the spaces you're going to play.
That's so good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or it just doesn't.
You can't
Nobody
play
wins. You don't win as a band because you're like,
this
is underwhelming, and the fans are like, this is kind of wussy. You know what I mean? So I think one of the dilemmas that bands that get so big have to figure out is like, okay, we may have started our sound with this thing, but now we're like trying to play to 20,000, 30,000 people a night.
Totally.
And so
that's a great point.
So,
and don't you think also what's at play is anything that you start off with, you just, 2 records in, 3 records in, you're going to find it. Like if you start out super complicated and weird or whatever, like that first record, the first song I ever heard from Coldplay was Everything's Not Lost, which has some of the chords. You're like, what is this? I don't know what this is. I remember sitting at a piano forever trying to figure out where is he going with this.
Yeah. What was he doing, by the way? Just geek wise.
Oh, I don't remember.
Okay.
I'd have to sit at the piano and figure it back out. But I do think then you sort of do that, you express yourself in that way, and then album 3 or 4 comes along and you're like, you know what a new constraint would be is utter simplicity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then you kind of
I'm going to like fence myself in, because that actually is something that will force me to be creative in a different way.
Yeah,
that's good.
Well, and two, it's like forgive me for talking about myself. I actually love doing this. I remember when Wirtz and I played, this was a seminal moment in my career. Wirtz and I played this event for Passion, where after Passion, everybody came out into the lobby in Atlanta, and me and Matt were playing, and it was so much fun, and there was a bajillion people there. Yeah. But I had a moment that night where, and we did a song, me, him, a song, me, the whole night. And it was a full band, and I realized real time, I have nothing but mid tempos, and Matt had so it'd be like Until You, which is great, but and then he would do and then it was me. It was like and then him with him, and I was like. So if you listen to my second record, Chasing Mississippi, it's almost all up tempo.
Because you're like,
I was like, I gotta have some songs that pick. And I think if you think about Coldplay, think of Venture of a Lifetime, whatever the songs are, you kind of, especially them, you look at a set of their first 2 records, and it'd been great, but you're like, man, we have been in the doldrums for an hour. And so I think, to John's point or whatever, it's like, you can see how they kind of go. To super nerd alert, if any geeks out there, if you watch The Making of Hysteria by Def Leppard, Mutt Lange, who's one of the most successful producers of all time, did all the Shania Twain stuff later, but did AC/DC, like Bryan Adams. He's a genius, truly a genius. When they came to him and they wanted him to produce that record, which has Pour Some Sugar on Me, Hysteria, all that stuff, he said no for forever, and finally he said, I'll do it, but here's how we're making it. If you're playing arenas, it has to... Every person on the last row of the arena has to be able to hear what the guitar is doing. So we are literally going to, if it is not needed, it is not in the song.
Unbelievable.
Because there was an eye toward this is the venues y'all are playing.
Yeah, we have to.
And it has to make sense in the venue. And so I think, again, that's Coldplay. The other thing I'll say is like, listen to the new record. I think it's awesome. Yeah. And I do think... It's a real return to some of the more piano stuff. It does have some up-tempo stuff. It's really cool.
The song All My Love, which
gosh.
is a piano-based song.
Unbelievable.
But Joseph Patton, one of my best friends and worship leader at our church, you would recognize him, I think, John. You used to come to church.
I can't see the band.
Is he on the podcast?
Yeah.
You'd know his voice, John.
Maybe, yeah.
He said All My Love it's a perfect song.
It's great.
And he said he texted Tom Douglas and was like, have you heard this song? And Tom was like, I don't know how this song hasn't been written yet. Because it is it's
well, and
so
let me tell you what, it takes a real page out of the Beatles.
It does.
Oh my gosh. I heard it on Saturday Night Live for the first time, and I was like, I literally started leaning up because I was like, did they just do it? I think they did. Like, it does some real Beatle moves that I was like
what? So teach.
So I mean,
careful.
Yeah.
Careful. You've got a hard out.
Yeah, I don't want. You guys just both put your headsets down and walk out, and I'm like crying, closing my eyes. Like,
I'll check on him at lunch.
No, it just does. The best way is what you said. Unexpected things throughout.
Yeah.
So like where you think a chord is going, it's the minor version of the chord. Or it just does. It's just great. It's but it was literally sitting there. I literally leaned up and was like, did they just do what I think they did? And then I'd lean back and I was like, whoa,
they're doing it again.
They're doing it again. So I was really excited by that.
Good. So that makes me feel like
it's great.
Because a buddy of mine who knows I love Coldplay sent me this review, and he was like, because I told him I love the new record, and he was like, well, sounds like it's terrible, and it's from this review, and I was like,
I also think the most ambitious things are the easiest to criticize. You know what I mean? And it's a double album. It's got the second album has like live version. And so I think when you do that kind of stuff, people are always like, what are you doing? What are you trying to do over there?
Plus, everyone's punching up to Coldplay, so you can kind of say whatever you want.
Right, yeah.
Because you're punching up.
Well, I got tickets for their Nashville show next summer. They just had a pre-sale last week.
Where is it?
Nissan.
Oh, geez.
Waited
Isn't
in line.
it their last tour or something? Isn't that what they said?
They said this was their 11th record. They're only making 14 records. And in the interview, they said, so you're done making music? Are you done playing music? And they said, never. They said, we're going to tour till we
not make
we're not going to make any more records after 14. And they said, why 14? He said, Beatles did 14. We feel like that's a good
Of course, the Beatles did it in a decade.
Right.
Which is insane. It actually really...
Like 7 years.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah.
So, But anyway, so they're not done. He said, we're going to be done making new music at 14, which probably won't be true. He's too much of it.
Well, I mean, if we've learned anything about the music industry, is the last tour turns into the decade of last tours.
Right.
You know, it's like.
But there's a girl at our church. You wouldn't know her, Dave, but she makes cookies for like celebrity artists, like green room cookies.
Oh yeah.
Cookie in the Kitchen, nice plug on Dadville. Mm-hmm. And so she just like made Chappelle Roan, and she's done like she gets to go like take the cookies to the artist. Mm-hmm. And I was like, look, I'm your pastor, so I'm not gonna
be you.
Yeah, but I said if you get the Coldplay cookie gig, I get to come deliver the cookies with you. And she was like, okay, it's fine. It counts as tithe. But
everybody gives in different ways.
yeah, everybody gives in different ways. But I'm like, Chris Martin's the one guy I would break the like Nashville celebrity rule for. I'd be like, I'm sorry.
So, okay, I swear it's the last thing. I'm going to get into other things. I talked about this on the pod, I think, but if you watched Camden yet on Disney Plus, bro, you're going to lose your mind.
Okay.
So basically, there's a part of London called Camden. It sort of reminds me of Hillsborough Village. But like 3 times that size.
Right,
But the same idea. But it's a lot of vintage shops. It's like really cool, artsy.
Yeah, been around for a long time.
Dirty, fun, cool, whatever. But it goes through all the bands that came up because there's like 6 or 7 clubs in this 3-block, 4-block.
Like they played there in there. Yeah.
And Oasis is one, Coldplay. But the Coldplay one is and I told John, I don't know that I've been this moved by a show in a long time because it has and you can watch their documentary.
Which is awesome, yeah.
But it has footage of them playing the different clubs. And so you see them kind of in the small 50-person room. And then like, a month later they play the whatever, 200,
yeah.
And then by the end of like, I don't know how long it takes, but not long. They're at the biggest venue on that strip. And it's just really powerful because you see like, I was trying to enunciate it to John. I think what moved me so much is you see the beginning of something that is self-contained. And I think everything they're about to do is right there. It's all on stage.
There.
It's not somebody else. They didn't hire a producer who wrote a bunch. I mean, they did eventually, but it's right there. It's just those 4 guys. They're going to figure out all this stuff.
Man.
And one of the coolest stories.
It's like an acorn to an oak tree.
That's exactly what it's like.
Yeah. Actually,
let me grab my guitar.
Yeah.
Is Garth cutting again? But like, but one of the coolest stories, and this is where I'm ending this, an A&R guy. So, as they gained notoriety, all the labels started showing up. And they knew that, and they were excited, and they wanted to get signed. But this guy, I think he worked for a label they didn't land on. And he said, I came that night, I heard it was great, but I just kind of didn't hear a hit. So I passed. So he said, cut to like 3 months later, I think he and his wife were in Mallorca or somewhere, and they're in a convertible driving around. And the radio guy says, this next song is a song called Yellow by Coldplay. And he said, literally, after the first chorus, my wife and I pulled over and just sat, turned the car off and listened to the song. And he was like,
Well,
they did it.
They did it.
I've made a terrible mistake.
They did it.
To quote Joe Blue. But like, it was just cool to see that like, the genesis of something so pure like that with that band and what it would go on to be.
Camden. Okay.
It's amazing.
Okay, I'll go watch it.
It's really, really good.
I have to.
Now that we've lost all of our non-music listeners.
Put this. Can your editor put that stuff at the end of the podcast?
Yeah. Just chop it up.
Just chop it up and sprinkle it in.
John, I just have to say this, John.
Okay.
Another day in a row where you've decided to be your best self. You've shaved. I can tell you've done your yoga. You've done your stretching.
Yep. How long have you been watching in my window?
Well, legally, but let's just say a long time.
That's a gray area.
But I just appreciate that you're so consistent.
Well, listen, I give myself some cheat days every now and then. I think that's healthy. But cheat days aside, Dave. What I put in my body matters, and I want to fuel it with the best stuff out there.
What a digression! That was amazing. You must be using Orgain. Am I right?
Yes, Dave. Because Orgain is a game changer. Orgain is the leader in real protein-powered nutrition. And Dave, this is so key.
Okay.
It still tastes great, and that's why I absolutely love it.
Some would say it's a Orgain changer.
Some.
I'm just going to keep reading because that's why they pay us. Me too, John. I love it because it has 30 grams. 30 grams of protein per shake, John. So I feel like it gives me a great head start every morning in keeping up with consuming the amount of protein I need each day.
I also love that Orgain has all 9 essential amino acids. I need my
you did 7 for a few years.
I'll never go back.
Wasn't great.
It gives me energy, provides muscle support, manages hunger, and satisfies my cravings without all that sugar.
Get that sugar out of here.
Only 1 gram of sugar per serving.
That's hard to believe. You know what's hard to believe, John?
Tell me.
Orgain 30-gram protein shakes are available at Orgain.com. If you want to get on the delicious protein-packed nutrition today, right now, head to Orgain.com/Dadville and use the code Dadville for 20% off your order.
Once again, that's Orgain.com/Dadville for 20% off. And make sure you use our promo code Dadville so they know we sent you.
Hey, it's Austin James. Yes, I'm living with diabetes, but it doesn't have to define me. Thanks to the Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor, I get real-time glucose readings throughout the day. The Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor is small and easy to wear, giving me the freedom to focus on my life as a parent and a musician. Now this is progress. You can get a free sensor at freestylelibre.us.
Offer available for people who qualify. Visit myfreestyle.us to see all terms and conditions. Certain exclusions apply. Data on file. Abbott Diabetes Care. For prescription only. Safety info found at freestylelibre.us.
Folks, you hear his voice. You know him. You love him. This tryout, by the way, that was what that was, and it felt great. So we're going to keep going.
It's good. It's good.
You're
Elliott
in the round
Cherry.
2.
Good.
This is, how many times have you been on now?
This is your third.
This is my third.
Yeah.
Trinitarian.
Wow, it's very on brand.
It's very on brand.
Which one is this one? The Holy Ghost or the?
Which one's your favorite?
Jesus?
Which one's your favorite member of the Trinity?
Which one is your favorite member of the Trinity?
It's constantly shifting.
Yeah.
As are they. Constantly in community.
Look at that.
Serving each other. That's my third. I think last time I joked that the second round made me the official pastor of Dadville. I don't remember what y'all said to that, but I think third. Is there anything else? What else would I have to do to become the pastor of Dadville?
Or have you moved on? Now you're kind of like executive pastor.
Is that moving on? Is that moving
I don't
up?
know. I just listened to the podcast.
He could have stirred a real pot there. Couldn't he? Every executive pastor listening is like, wait a second.
I didn't move up.
Yeah.
Did I say on?
Yeah,
Moved around.
Yeah.
Moved around.
Yeah.
See, it's Trinity.
Trinitarian.
Your Western mind wants a hierarchy. It's a relationship.
Don't do that.
Jeez.
Don't fit
My
me.
Western mind says from the guy from Indiana. Yeah.
Whoa.
Sorry. It's the Midwest.
Well, after 3, you're kind of done. So
Yeah,
let's
kinda
enjoy
done.
this last conversation.
This is your last tour.
I'm honored to be here. I love you guys. I love this show. I love getting to talk with you guys. So thanks for having
How
me
is
back.
Love you as well.
so what's the catch up? How's the fam?
Five- yeah.
the
How many
youngest-
kids have you had since you've been on?
I don't know. We have 5 still. My youngest is like a year and a half, almost coming up, about to be 2 in December. And I've got kind of 12 down to almost 2. And Essie is my 12-year-old. Winton is my 10-year-old. Talitha is my 6-year-old. Oakland is my 3-year-old. And Joni is my almost 2-year-old. So, yeah, it's a lot. Y'all, I mean, I don't think, honestly, that anyone with less kids than us can't feel this way. This isn't unique to 5 kids, but it maybe is
I'm
just...
okay with things being unique to 5
Yeah,
kids.
yeah.
I'm not going to have any pushback with this.
That's your view of it. Our view is it's very unique.
It might be very unique. I guess I just don't want to, I'm not trying to win the suffering Olympics. Everybody thinks that, my suffering is, no one could possibly understand it. When I walk into my home, the tsunami of needs is like, it's a diaper, it's a meltdown, it's a preteen, it's like all the things. And it's like, it just amplifies what men typically feel anyway, which is a sense of inadequacy around what they've been called to do. Like, I'm not enough for this, but it's like, I can't argue with that. I'm not enough for this.
Yeah.
Dave and I were, before you showed up, we were just talking about how
I'm not enough for this.
we aren't enough. Or
No,
you aren't.
you
enough.
are. No, we were talking about
Is
you.
he enough? Should we get
Should we
somebody
have
else?
him on? I don't feel like he's enough.
Then we were talking about how when, I took Libby to school and Luca to school by myself today, and I was saying I like doing that a couple days a week because it's just me, and they're like looking at me and they're talking to me, and when it's me and Amy and them, it's all Amy.
Yeah,
it's comically like I'm not even in the room. Like when we're on car trips, everything is
to mommy.
But I wonder if that's your experience because there's just a necessity.
No, not as much. There are certain things that they want to talk to mommy about, or they go to mommy. But honestly, it's not quite as dad's not here. It's almost like we're just kind of, Britt and I are in the foxhole of it all together. Bedtime is it's like, it's survival. I know some parents, some couples will tag team bedtime every other night. You do tonight and I'll do tomorrow night. It's it would be offensive to say, you know what I mean? It's you don't love me if you're asking
She's
me.
oh, you're leaving me to die.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
So that we don't, it's no, everything's kind of together.
Overwhelm me and take me down.
That's correct.
Yeah.
But we've got great kids. We're doing well. Maybe since I've been on, I don't remember last time I was on exactly timeline wise, but we moved houses, and we just got a yard, a front and a backyard. It's great. We got a little bit less square footage actually, but it's kind of just a better square footage. So the 7 of us feel We're in our home, and we love it. So
it's a
life's
great house.
It is.
a great setup.
Great yard. Yeah, y'all have been to the front yard.
If I were you, I don't know if you're uncomfortable with like how nice it is as a pastor. I don't know where that sits. Yeah, you can cut that out. If you want.
I'm not uncomfortable. I just, I'm trying actually to, one day we'll have mansions in the new heavens and new earth.
Ah, there you go. Well, you're working your way there.
I'm trying
on
to
earth, I guess.
I'm trying to bring heaven here. That's what I'm trying to
You laugh.
on earth as is in heaven.
I think one of the things I had to realize about this is true. One of the things I realized, I don't know if you relate to this, if this is an Enneagram 7 thing, but like that is the middle of the epicenter of the middle of my struggle of being a human on earth.
Oh, God.
I just want it to be like that here and comfortable and
what are we waiting
easy
on?
and enjoyable.
What are we waiting on?
I'm like, can we get rid? It's like that was a huge moment for me. Like a couple years ago, to realize like, oh, that's what I'm always trying to do.
Yes.
Is just make it, and not in, I don't mean this in a holy, I mean like in a drive myself crazy way.
Right. But I think it is holy. Like,
some of it is, sure, absolutely.
Even if it doesn't manifest in like righteous thoughts, the desire for it is really holy. The theology term for that would be, I'm a pastor, so I can say that word.
Tell people that,
Yeah.
And he said pastor.
Yeah.
Just if anybody heard a different word, that's not.
Is an over-realized eschatology, meaning eschatology like in times when the Lord returns and makes all things new and all things right and justice rolls down and peace reigns and shalom is here and all that stuff. Over-realized eschatology now, N.T. Wright talks about this a lot, where it's like to force that into right now is called an over-realized. Like you're demanding that right now do something for you that it can't do until then. And so, but like I think the longing is, I've been interested to ask you. Maybe we've talked about it before. Which Enneagram number? And I do think there are versions for every single one. But which Enneagram number will enjoy the new heavens and the new earth the most? Well, all obviously, and it's a hypothetical, extra biblical. I'm not.
Well,
but like,
too. It's like, what relief will you experience?
That's the way to ask it. Yeah.
It's funny. My guess would be 7s. It's just going to be great because part of me is like, there's got to be some.
You see me sprinting nude throughout. I'm just running everywhere nude.
Right.
Yeah.
Can you guys believe it? Oh my God, there's chocolate.
I'm not getting tired. Look at my time, my pace.
I don't.
Strava.
I have no limits. Yeah. No, that's interesting.
Strava.
You saying, there's got to be some struggle, but because that's what you long for. I think a 4 would feel like I'm finally fully known.
Mm-hmm.
Someone like I don't feel like no one would ever get me. But now,
how are all the 4s going to feel though when that happens?
And then everybody's
are they going to be like, but
no.
My thing is that I'm not known.
I look over and you're just like constantly fixing a little bit of your hair.
Yeah,
like,
no.
Like,
here's what's going to happen: is Jesus is going to look at you and he's going to say, "No one understands what it's like to be misunderstood like I do." So you're going to feel like, "Oh, he gets me."
Yeah.
Yeah. Jesus was the most misunderstood man in history.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So maybe he was a 4.
Maybe.
Mm-hmm. He's all of them. He's a 10.
He's a 10.
Yeah. So life's good in the Cherry House. Thanks for asking.
I did want to ask you. Amy and I are both the youngest in our sibling group, and there's so many things that I'm fascinated with birth order, and there's so many things that I see. There are pros and cons to both, but there's a lot of pros to being the youngest.
Yeah.
We talk about Sweet Sammy on here a lot and Livy. And I think when you have 5 kids, my brother has 5 kids. So this is something that this is a dynamic that I hear about a lot and I think about a lot. And I think when there's 5 kids, there's just logistical realities that you just can't.
Yep.
They're not going to be the same if you have 1 kid.
Totally.
Right? And I think that there are there are probably some really good things that come with that sort of like the necessity for autonomy earlier than
establishing themselves,
et cetera. Is that, and I would imagine if I were a dad of 5 kids, I would be probably on the other side of that coin a lot, thinking, how am I letting them down because of the limitations of just the logistics of life?
Yeah, no.
But do you and Britta talk about, these kids are going to be great. I'm seeing in real time how they are learning to take care of each other because we can't be five different places.
I could say a lot about all that. Yes. So the birth order thing is so real. And here's what I find myself doing sometimes, trying to actually like knowing what it means to be a firstborn or a middle or the youngest or whatever, like, and knowing what stereotypes typically happen in those in family systems, finding myself to try to do things to offset some of those other realities. But I don't think like birth order is like, inerrant and it's like from on high, but it's real. And it's almost like you're kicking against the goads. It's like, you're not going to be able to offset your firstborn feeling like she has to do everything right. Like, it doesn't matter how many times you try to, it's like, that's just going to be the thorn in her flesh. And how do you love her? Instead of trying to make it so that she doesn't feel any of that, how do I actually like come alongside her because she is going to feel some of that? It's like two totally, but I'm trying to like offset it instead of like hold it with them. But like, I feel all of that. Well, like my son, the only boy, what's he going to feel like he was the only boy and a brother to 4 sisters and all that? Like, there's a dynamic to that like might actually be really good for him that I don't need to fight against. Like, we got to do man stuff and boy stuff. It's like maybe or maybe not. Maybe, you know what I mean? Like, and I think there's a balance there. Britt and I talk about the little personalities we see a lot, and like, we're looking into like the next. What you just displayed is what you will be like in 10 or 20 years, and it's like this is who you are, and that's not all bad. Some of that's really lovely, but yeah, I think that's some of the need you feel when you walk in the house. You're like, oh, there's a dynamic at play with your personality and what you've gotten to experience in this home that like is going to be your story, and I can't fix or rescue you from all that. It's just going to be what it is, which can kind of be liberating because you go, man, Lord, these children hopefully are in your hands because like they can't all be in mine. Right. And,
which, like you're saying that would be, you'd be forced to either go crazy or feel liberated.
Totally. Yeah. And Esther, my oldest, is great at taking care of the others, like at different times when there's, things going on. And other times she doesn't really want to. She's like, I don't want to be the one that like babysits the other 4 and has to take. And so it's like, you shouldn't have to be.
You get it. That's how I feel.
Imagine having 5, Esther. Yeah.
She's like, pretty sure that was your choice.
Yeah. Well, it's the Lord's choice.
Amen.
Yeah.
Blame it on your mom.
So yes, and I think all the above. But there also is, I think this can happen in a family with 2 or a family with 3. But like growing up in this Cherry house, no one will be illusion to believe that the world revolves around them.
Yeah.
They can't. Now they
That's
still
just
such a great thing.
Yeah, it's great.
That's the weight of 7.
Right. Yeah. It's like, sorry, you're not going to we can't do what just you want to do right now. And you're going to have to be okay with that or not be okay with that. But like, you're not going to believe that this all exists for you.
So, okay. This launches into something I really want to talk about. I've got this new record coming out Friday. And sorry, no, not that, but also this.
Tie it in. You can always tie it in.
What's the name of the record?
So it's a deluxe version of the Feather Rain Wells Motel. I'm joking about that, but this is what I want to talk about. You that is so well put, and something that is really fascinating to me. I listen to this. This is not necessarily what I'm talking about. We can if you want to, but sports and kids and stuff. The Gospel Coalition put out this incredible podcast on it. It's unsomething, but it's great. This woman does a really good job. And it's not just let's interview parents who have it's like she has data on youth sports and how much money it's made and how it started and why it's what it is now.
The cult of it.
The cult of it. But what she really argues well, and what's probably the most convicting is really the central struggle is exactly what you just spoke to, which is like how, and she really has data for this. She's like, our generation, as much as any other generation, has this feeling that we have to sort of like over provide for our kids.
Yeah.
That really kind of wasn't there in the previous generations. I mean, it always iterates, right?
Sure,
so it's some shade of a different. It's the same shade of a different. It's a different shade of the same color. And let's get that one more time. It's Jason.
Album's
3,
out on
2.
Friday, 11. Always tie it in. Circle back to that. Screen it anywhere.
But you just make a great point. I think one of the amazing things about the size of a family like yours is it's just baked into the experience.
It's got to be.
Because the thing that with sports, whatever, I've found myself thinking about so much with my kids is, there's a beautiful part that we all as parents want to provide. Like you do want them to have that.
Totally.
That is the best experience they can have at whatever, or that's just you can't ignore that as a parent.
Yep.
It is just in our souls. The thing that gets tricky about it though is when you realize like I had this, and this scared the crud out of me, and I think especially with the first children because they are the first and they do the first things, you know, and so I've thought about Ben especially, and he's played soccer all his life, and like we're just used to driving around and watching him, right?
Right.
And it has been hysterical hearing how much he doesn't like doing that for the other two. And if you want to see me get triggered from the depths of Sheol, I'm like, do you know how many hours? And we did this last weekend, and the younger two didn't even put up a fight. Because they just fall in the line.
This is what we do.
We go see. But the minute it's like, hey,
Sam's
Sam's got it. Ben's like, I don't want to sit. But
it's like, hey, buddy.
Bro, let me. I mean, literally, I start to hum with red hot heat. And, he's figuring that out, and it's fine. I get the sentiment because he's like, it's kind of boring or whatever.
Totally, yeah.
But that said, there is something that's really crazy about our generation of this sort of like, and this is what scared me the most, what I'm trying to say. Am I osmotically teaching my kids that their life should be busy?
Totally.
It should be heavily paid attention to. That their interests are paramount over any other interest.
Golly.
And that's something Manny and I have had to talk about is like, and it doesn't even have to be sports, it can be ballerinas, it can be art camp, whatever it is, right?
It could be the food I feed them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
it's like, I look at Andy and I'm like, I do not want our kids to ever and not even something they know they're doing. But as they grow, go, well, hey, what I do matters the most. And people should bow to my will and what I want to do. And then are we doing that? Am I enforcing that? Because I'm
trying to give them
we will drive an hour to go see that. We will, 100%. Yes, and we'll drop everything. And that's really the main theme is like, and you said this so well, everybody has stuff going on.
Right.
And that's, I mean, and this is a little bit of a Pandora's box here, but like, that's the other thing that's hard to me about when you have rehearsals, practices, whatever.
Golly.
There comes a point that you guys know so well. And I mean, this is where you have a lot more weight than John and I do with 5. 2 more times, 3 more times than John, like with each of us, that many more logistical things.
Yeah, astronomical.
There have been nights where I've looked at Andy and gone, we're just not going to go to that practice.
We're not doing it.
We can't do it.
Well,
and this is the last minute because I can't get there by the time. Let me just finish the thought. Because it wars with
what I need is
this ideology that you come up with.
100%.
That is like when you say yes, you do not miss. Because I'm
committed.
teaching my kid,
right?
And I'm like, that's a great thought. But you know what else you should teach them? Is like, I'm not going to kill me and the rest of the family so you can go play 30 minutes of practice soccer,
dude. And okay, there's so much. Yeah, this is Pandora's box because part of it is I've modeled for you, and in getting you to all these things and what do you want to do today, and let's go do it, and all that stuff is I'm modeling for you that we can actually pretend to be infinite beings and we can do it all.
Wow, what a great take!
That's it's so like good. And so, but like I do that with my work. Like Dad's so busy, he's always gone. He preaches all day Sunday, and it's like. And there is an element of like, yeah, like I have, a lot of responsibilities and I do a lot of things and whatever, but it's also like, I'm propagating this narrative of like, you can do it all. You can do it all. And you don't have to actually practice limitations of things. And so my buddy Joseph, who I was talking about earlier, this was months and months ago, but kind of confronted me one week at work. He was like, hey, I just feel like there's a phrase called drive by Elliott where it's like I'm just on to the next thing, and like the people in my wake are just like, where's and I was like, well, yeah, I'm getting a lot of I'm sorry, I'm really busy, like I'm not meaning to pass you by. I got defensive and then I rebuked him for rebuking me. You have that power. We're not friends anymore. And we're not friends.
You're like,
we will not be.
Joseph, did you look at the bottom of my contract here? I have a rebuking power. It's a last rebuke.
I'm not executive pastor.
I'm the last rebuke.
But it was like, some of that is true. Like there are demands on my time. There are things that people like I'm responsible for. The other side of it is like, I actually love creating the narrative for other people that would let them believe Elliott can do it all.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I want you to think I'm infinite. And so then it comes to our kids where it's like, well, let's get you to this cheerleading practice, and then you have this soccer practice, and then you have this test to study for, and then you need to eat dinner at some point, and then we're going to we're all trying to read Harry Potter together tonight. And so it's like, we can't do it all, but my life wouldn't necessarily say to you that I believe that.
Yeah.
And so,
right.
which feeds the monster, what you were saying of, well, whatever you want, and we'll all be there, and this world revolves around you. It's another tentacle of the same reality.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold! Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See detail.
At New Balance, we believe if you run, you're a runner. However you choose to do it. Because when you're not worried about doing things the right way, you're free to discover your way. And that's what running's all about. Run your way at newbalance.com/running.
It also, which John and I have talked about a lot on this podcast, is like it also sort of like sneaks, it backdoors anxiety.
Oh my gosh.
Because the way it looks is we're productive and we're great use of time, and we're showing you how to be committed to things and pull off commitments no matter what or whatever. But let me tell you what it's also introducing to your poor little kid's life is just mass amounts of anxiety.
Dude.
Because life is not supposed to be lived at that clip.
Right.
And sure, there's seasons for things, right? But I mean, when you look at your life,
oh my gosh,
and and that's the other thing that Andy and I have talked about. One is I don't want to teach them that like the world bends to your will.
Right.
Like we'll all take mass hits for you over and over and over, right? Like that's not how it's going to work. And then two, that life is supposed to be lived at this clip. Mm-hmm. This is the speed of life, and I'm showing you how to do that as your parent because we're overcommitted to the gills.
Totally.
And so you
you have the added layer of the church. Like we're raising our kids in the church, and you hear these like little things every now and then where they're like, well, the most important thing is just to be. Jesus was like, just be with still.
Me. Right.
So like, it's kind of confusing.
It's got to be confusing.
Yeah.
Because like, well, I don't see that anywhere. I don't see anybody just being.
Right.
Yeah.
And as an adult, I can know, I can kind of put that struggle and that dichotomy sort of in its place. I've had years and years, as we all have as adults, to sort of wrestle with it and figure out a balance for it and whatever. And at least, if nothing else, be like, well, I love my work. I love what I'm doing, and work is great. But I'm kind of trying to like reset those scales.
Totally.
I'm trying to calm.
Right.
It's why like meditation apps are really popular, all that kind of stuff. But to our kids, it's very confusing.
We're not modeling that. We're
not modeling it.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing, I think, when you think about that, that's really the thing that scares me the most. It's just like, what am I teaching them without knowing I'm teaching them?
In the spirit of, I'm trying to provide for you.
So you can have the best.
We have some friends who, and this is maybe one, it's like, we could certainly turn this up louder, this reality, or practice it in different ways. But we have friends with 4 kids that, like, they don't go to all their kids' practices or their games. It's like, I'll get you a ride. We're not going.
Yeah.
Because you have siblings that
they need to do other things.
You do other things. And so it's like, hey, I'll hear how your soccer tournament went when you get back on Sunday. Yeah. And like the thought of like, a parent, I'm like, I want to be at all my kids' practices. I want to watch them, partially because it's my idol. Like I want to see if they're getting better, if they're doing good and all that kind of stuff. But it's like, if I was free of them not needing to be something and could set that down, that's like, hey, we'll get you there. We'll pay for it. But like, I'm not revolving my life around this in that way. I'm not bowing down to it in that way. Because
this is something that I have thought in the last 4 or 5 days. Amy and I have thought about a lot because we just went on
getting a little braggy.
This trip, this very expensive, swanky, exclusive trip. I can't even mention the island that we went to. No, we went to Cape Cod with some friends. It's been planned forever.
Yeah,
a long, long time, and this soccer game, like the last game of the season, was on Tuesday. We came home on Wednesday, and we really it's one of those things where like if we were right next to an airport, we probably would have flown home a day early. But we're like, it's like a 3-hour drive. Right. We got one rental car, et cetera, et cetera. So we really have been thinking about this a lot, And I a couple weeks ago talked with a friend of mine who kind of felt like the person that you're describing. Like, he's like, I don't need to go to every practice. He's like, I actually think that there's a healthy, balanced sort of message that you can kind of send your kids. But I don't know. I'm still.
Did you feel guilty about not going to the game?
Absolutely, I felt very guilty. And I was thinking of like, what's the best case scenario here? Like, she's a sixth grader. A lot of the sixth graders don't play. Do I hope that she doesn't play at all? What would be the best, Yeah, I felt really guilty, and it made me think of like when I was a kid, my dad traveled a ton.
Oh my gosh.
And I don't know how he did it, but I don't have memories of swim meets that he was not at.
Man.
That he made.
Yeah, I don't either.
He and my mom, they were at everything. And I don't think it would have bothered me if he wasn't there. I don't know, but I've been so deep in this headspace right here, just because there was this is like the first thing that we missed.
Yeah. And some of it is like, again, it's what you were saying of like, from such a good place. Like, I want you to, when you look in the stands, I want you to see your dad smiling at you and like proud of you. And like, I just love watching you. Like, I'm in the best way. I'm obsessed with you. Like, I think you're the greatest because you're my own. I love you. But then it feeds this other thing of like, well, they do my schedule rules theirs, and and it's like to actually say something different of like, we love you, and we're not gonna. Dan Allender says every kid is inherently asking two questions to their parents: do you love me, and can I do whatever I want? And the answer is yes and no.
Wow.
And so like can I do whatever I want applies to a lot of things, but like, I can prove to you that I love you and say to you, you can't do whatever you want, which some of that is, you have to be at all my practices, Dad. And it's like, no, that's not how we're going to do this. I'm not modeling this. I'm talking about this in theory. But I do think about it, especially with 5, because our youngest 2 aren't doing anything yet. But we had this fall of our 3 bigs, cheerleading and double soccer and flag football and basketball. And they were like, with 3 different kids. And it was like, we only have 2 cars. Like, it's like, how am we supposed to get to the, so.
Have you talked to the church about that?
Yeah.
With a house like that, you could probably
get 3.
3, 4 more cars.
We have 3 empty slots in our garage.
You got enough. Well, you got enough for a front yard. You could park them out there.
That's true.
Show your neighbors. We have ancillary cars. You know the part of that is just like, man, I can't tell you all how much I feel this so deeply. So, I think because, Annie grew up playing really competitive sports growing up. She's an athlete. She was like, I grew up playing recreational and really enjoyed it and could hang, but was never going to be the star. And I didn't really want to be that. So when I looked at kids and sports and activities, I was just kind of like, I'm going to be like the same dad. Like, I'm not the guy that you're staring down the line like, oh my God, just like chill out, bro. And it has been so sobering as my kids have gotten older, how much I find my identity in their performances.
Yeah.
And it is like, and again, this is not coming from an athlete.
Right.
Like I can hang. It was fun. Right. That was not my identity.
You're not trying to live your...
No.
Yeah.
But I am.
Right.
And I think it's really, really powerful. I mean, dude, God has been all over me about this because, being in a new school and Ben's Ben's a great player and there's been some team stuff and I told Andy the other day, it's like, I don't know that I have felt in my body what I felt a couple of times this week.
Watching.
Yeah. And just like anger, like, of course I'm not saying anything, but I was like, my heart rate,
dude.
And I was like, and I had to get in the car and be like, Lord, like what? And it's all, and Ben is having a blast.
Yeah, he's not.
He's like, hey, wasn't that great? And I'm like, he's like, Dad, are you okay? Are you having a heart attack? And so what I had to realize was, even when I don't think I am, I'm trying to repair my story through Ben.
Yeah.
I'm also trying to like, this is what got really sneaky. I had a really great conversation with a friend of mine about this because he's got kids that are like uber athletes, and I was like, just give me some wisdom. And he affirmed this.
I remember talking to you about this.
Yeah, I called you, and I was like, help me here, El, with all of your cars. But it was just like, I have osmotically and without me knowing attached to Ben, especially because he's the oldest, this real
man,
as he goes, so do I. And I haven't meant to. Like, I would tell you 2 weeks ago, I'm like, I don't do that.
Right.
But some things that have happened, I was like, man, I really have
dude.
And it is, and so I think if there was 10 things I could sit with the church and talk about, like the global church, I should say really the North American church, I think one of them would be especially dads. I can't speak for moms. I can just speak for me and my friends who relate to this that are dads. But we got to be really careful about, because everything is a ruse for something else. Like, all of these noble things are really shadow versions of these really terrible things a lot of times. And I think what happens is dads especially will be like, I want him to be the best at baseball I can be.
100%.
And so we're going to get a private pit, whatever. Shadow self of that is
let's talk about that.
Well, okay, now tell me why we're doing that, and he's 9. It's like, is he
does
need
he
the
want to
best,
make his,
or do you need him to be the best?
And if he wants to make his middle school team, we have to start now. And
some of that's fine, but I just think for me that literally that would be one of the things.
10.
To be like, hey, we got to get this out in the open.
Let's talk about this. 100%. Okay, so I'll tell a backstory to tell just to bring it up to speed. When I was I was married, had maybe one child. My little brother played college football at Georgia Southern, which is good. They were D2, 1AA. They were really good in that division, but they weren't like SEC. But he was a punter. He was really good. His last college game was at University of Florida in the Swamp. I'm from Florida, because they were playing closing out their season. They were in this transition year where they couldn't go to their own national championship playoffs because they were transitioning up a division. You have to sit a year out. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So his last college game was at the Swamp, which Florida football, growing up in Florida, was like, this is huge. You will never play. He played at University of Alabama, which is huge too, but and they got crushed. But he goes into Florida. Florida was having a little bit of a down year, but it's an SEC school. He's going out. Oh, we might have a chance to beat this team. And so a whole family's there. We're in the little Georgia Southern fan section. His first punt, his first snap, he fumbles it and gets body slammed by this defensive end from University of Florida. I thought he died. It was he's and not only was it that was a terrible play, terrible for your team, the coach might not put you back in. That might be your last college play. And I remember looking over at my dad. We were all standing up in the Georgia Southern section, and he was curled over, hunched down, hands on his knees. And I was like, Dad, are you okay? He's like, I feel like I'm going to throw up. I'm not doing well. And I remember thinking, I'm a new dad. I have a little baby at that point. I'm like, God, he has made such an idol out of he's tying his identity with his son. I feel sad for my little brother, but come on, And it wasn't that. I had more compassion than that in real time, but I literally thought to myself, I will not do that. Fast forward to today, my son, he's 9, about to be 10. He's a really good little basketball player. He's on a really good team. He's not winning the DNA pool on that team. He is on a very good team, and he does his job. He is not the dude. He is not. And when I tell you how I feel when he's in a game and drops a pass in 9-year-old basketball, I feel like my dad felt. I'm like, I'm and we're like, oh, there it is. And this is in little he's not even in double digits yet. Yeah.
But would you say that you are feeling what you're feeling because you're like, this is a break in the play? If he's not going to perform well, he's not going to be playing anymore, and then he won't make this team?
It's mixed.
Or are you just like, how is he going to feel after this?
Both things. And I want him to enjoy doing this. I want him to love this. I don't want him to be covered in his own shame on this. Dad, I really screwed up today. All that's there. And there's you embarrassed me, son. I mean, not totally that, but there is well,
you know what it is too, if I can be so bold.
Yeah.
I think you have peers
100%.
Who have kids on that team.
100%.
And they have come to look at your son and respect him and you. And so when your kid under-delivers and theirs didn't, boy, that's a new thing for me.
Oh, boy.
I'm like, what is that feeling?
And I am looking down the pipeline of man, if you get kicked off this team, you can go play in what are you going to play in the development league now, and you're not going to make your middle school team. You're definitely not going to play high school. You're going to give up on basketball by that point, and now all that stuff, and I can be 15 years of consequences for
in a nanosecond.
In a nanosecond.
Drop pass.
I mean,
Do you think that you guys would feel differently
if we're better Christians.
Yeah. I didn't know how to say it, but yeah.
Yes.
Well, actually, Dave, I kind of take this back because you kind of framed it the way that my experience is. I was a swimmer all growing up.
Mm-hmm.
My girls are not swimming.
Right.
They haven't.
So it's not with the. I know. Yeah.
So I'm watching them playing soccer, which I love, but that was Amy's sport.
Yeah.
Right.
And I will say, if she were here, like when we're at the games, she has a harder time.
Yeah. 100%. Absolutely.
One of Luca's first games this season, she was like, I might have to go wait in the car. So I'm kind of answering my own question, but I think it's easier to watch them in a sport that you don't have baggage in.
1,000%.
You know,
Went my son, same son's been playing flag football this year. He's a great little player. He got a playoff game tonight. I'm so free while watching. I never played football. I played flag football.
That's well said. Well
it's
said.
like great. I'm just happy.
Well said.
I'm happy if you're happy. It's great. I want them to win. I want them to, but I'm like, the identity around basketball for me, soccer for you. Mm-hmm. If he was playing golf, you'd probably go, like, sorry, buddy.
I'd banish him.
Yeah.
Sorry, where were you going with that? But you know what's funny? With Scruggs, I'll never forget this. Like, his kids are super athletic, and his oldest, Charlie was playing.
Is good.
Charlie's like a really great athlete too. And he was playing basketball. And I remember being at one of the games sitting with Chad, and I was kind of trying to have a conversation while they go. And it was I've never failed worse at a because he was like, and then I'd say an entire paragraph like, I'm really struggling, and he'd be like, you got to pass the ball. And I was like, oh, God, okay. And I was like, man,
is that a metaphor?
He's really...
Is that for me?
You know what? That's a great point, Chad. I do need to pass the ball. I'm holding the ball too long in my career. And it's... But, I mean, it was literally like... I remember almost like getting my feelings hurt.
Yeah.
Because I was like, he's just not talking. But, my kid was playing, and I was like, yeah, it's fun. Dude, cut to me at soccer games. I have guys like, bro, and they're just went, and I'm like, pass the ball. Oh, great shot. Yeah, totally, man. I'm like,
it's the same. Yeah. What is happening here?
I can attest to that.
Yeah.
I mean,
we had some of your chairs. You remember this?
Yes.
Our kids happened to be like, we borrowed some of their chairs because our chairs were somewhere else, and we were done with a soccer game, one of Livy's soccer games, and I looked at your location. And you were there at the soccer complex. And I was like, oh, I'll just bring them the chairs. But Ben's game was already going on. I walk up. Yeah, and you were definitely, I was like, hey, Dave, got your chairs.
Dave?
Dave,
are you crying?
Leave him here.
Okay.
Dave?
We have
remember the podcast?
A couple from our church. Parents are both super athletic. Dad played college football, played in the NFL. Mom played college softball. Won a national championship, I think, as a pitcher. Their kids are stud athletes. Like, and one of their sons got to play in the Little League World Series a couple years ago.
Golly Moses.
And they were up in Omaha, where it is, and the mom who played college softball, all the fans. They told me this story. Like, how was it? And the dad was like, we all watched it. Mom had to go out in like right field and just pace.
Yeah.
Yes. Couldn't even she hated every second.
Yeah. She was miserable.
It was like hated the whole experience. They went to the final, went to the World hated the whole thing. It was like could not enjoy one drop of it. It was like, yeah.
It's so funny. I kind of want my girls to swim just so I can see how I'd be. Because of course on this side, just like you were with your dad back in the swamp, I'm like, I don't think I'd be that way, but I probably would.
Yeah. If it was something, I wonder, are you that way with when your girls play piano?
Yeah.
They're not performing it yet. They're not competing it yet. Yeah. So they're just
I don't know.
learning. They're just learning to love it, and you want them to love it right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is a 1-to-1 analogy. It gets a little muddy, but I will say when they sit at the piano in the house and they're trying to sound something out.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I guess maybe that's I'm like, they're like,
honey, it's just
da, 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 da. Nope. Da, 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 da. And I'm like, why'd you get the second note wrong? You already had that one. And they're like fishing for a note that I'm like, can't you tell that note's higher? Why are you going lower fishing for that note?
You're like, sit up straight.
How'd you get the second one wrong?
Sit up straight.
The second one was right the
You
first time.
had the second one.
You're making it Mixolydian.
How are you
this
failing
is a major
more?
scale.
I love that you come over and you just pull the keys cover over. Like, we're just not going to do this.
We're going to see it. Let's lock that up.
Yeah, why don't you go play soccer in front of your mom again? She needs to be stressed. So
Soccer in front of your mom.
Amy, go watch Luca kick around the back. Yeah,
lock the piano.
It is true. I mean, I will say there is a tiny, tiny, tiny part of me in those moments. Tiny part of me that is like, what does it mean that they can't hear that yet?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah, totally.
Okay, she's almost 12.
Yeah.
She can't hear that yet.
Yeah.
Why is she, I don't know.
Yeah.
She's going to be poor, living in a slum.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that the end of all of it? Is it just like they're not going to be able to live?
Well, I asked my buddy the other day, and I thought this was really interesting because we were having this whole conversation. I said, do you think this iterates into their adulthood? He's like 1,000%, like with their jobs and stuff. And I was like, oh, I'm not prepared for this.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah.
I am not prepared. And it makes sense because, you'll see your dad talk about you to a friend.
Totally.
Or you'll hear and oh, we're telling them you guys are great and you got the kids and job's going great. And you're
100%.
like, oh my God, that's just the same thing as
the same
your
thing.
kid playing a sport in middle school and they're killing it.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, he's out there doing his thing or she's swimming and she's ballet, whatever. It's just,
bro.
I was like, I'm not prepared for this in my life. But, and maybe this is a good place to land. I think the thing that is interesting to think about as we talk about this, and you kind of inferred this earlier, is I wonder if some of the discipline around those things is exactly what you're saying. Is how do we as parents have a little bit more how do we guard against those things? And I wonder if some of it is not going to every practice and knowing that I don't maybe need to go to every game, or just ways that we can guard that makes it a little less important. What are ways that take a little of the weight of this off? Man. And if it's like, you know what, I don't want to go this weekend.
Totally.
He'll play or she'll play and it'll be great. I think maybe for me and for them, for them,
I need this because they actually need me to do this. Yeah. This is, are we closing? I'll close with this. Some of the what our kids need from us, and what do we need from them in the sense of in the unhealthy way? Like, I need you to be a certain way for me to be okay, which is creating an anxiety in them, like you were talking about. And it's all inherent. No one's saying it. No one's explicitly saying it, but it's like, I actually need you to do better at this in order for me to feel settled and I'm okay and all that. Yeah. Which says a lot about us, right? Like we're the problem. We're the insecure ones. My little Joni, who's almost 2, she started doing this thing recently where I'm like, oh, I think this is like everything. This is it. And it's so cute, and she doesn't even know that she's doing it. But for whatever reason, when we're rocking her, changing her diaper, it's time to go to bed, we say, hey, Joni, I love you. Her response always is, I like you. And it's like, oh, you don't want to just know that I love you and I'm here for you and I'll be at all your sports practices. You want to know that I really like you.
Yeah.
And so we've started saying that back. I'll say, I love you, Joni. She'll go, I like you. And I'll go, I like you too. And it's like, but she hasn't done anything. She's not a great basketball player yet. She's not a great piano player yet. It's like, I like you. That's what it's like. I don't want to know that my parents love me. I do need to know that, which includes a lot of things.
Right.
I also really want to know that they like me. I like you. I'm like, oh, it's not much more complicated than that. I just like you for who you are.
It's interesting when you sort of put them side by side like that, because love is you can sort of get away. You can mold that into into kind of whatever you want
justifying
that to look
a whole bunch of things.
But you can't.
Right.
Life is a little more here with us now.
You can love your enemies. You don't have to necessarily like them.
Yeah.
I've said often when people ask about my marriage, how's it going, and different times, different seasons, the best seasons are when it's like, I committed to always love my wife. Man, we're in a season where I really like each other too. Those are the it's like so you do know the difference, and to then translate it to parenthood of I think you're really great. I really like you.
Yeah.
I'd pick you as a friend, even if, if we weren't blood related, that kind of thing is that's what she wants. That's what they all want to hear from me.
Totally.
And when they drop a pass in a basketball game and they get in the car and they want to know, Dad, what'd you think about the game? It's like, I'm ripping the fabric off of my seat.
Dad, why are you sweating?
It's like, buddy, I just like being around you, buddy.
Yeah.
I like watching you play. I like Yeah, I like you.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And it can't, and I'll say this, it can't be undersaid. The joy, I mean, this borders so much on cheese, but it's so true. The joy I get from watching my kids do those things.
Dude, it's unparalleled.
It's incredible.
It's unparalleled.
And I think it informs a lot of these feelings, but it can't, and I don't want to poo-poo on that because it's incredible. Like when my kids are doing something they really love to do and you can tell that they're just in it.
Yeah.
It is incredible. It is like, I get the smallest glimpse of how I think God views me.
Totally.
When he's like, God, look at you being free.
Right.
And
I like you. I really like you.
Yeah, it's like I just really like you. It's crazy. You know?
That's how I felt when our girls had their musical, like end of year musical last year. It was the last one that they were like both in together.
My kids saw that musical. They said they crushed it.
Yeah.
They said they crushed it.
And I'm sitting there watching and I'm like you're saying, Dave, and yeah, it sounds cheesy, but I'm like, this is the best example for how God views us. I'm like, I'm loving this, and they can crush it,
right?
Or they could be terrible. And I feel this way about all these kids. Like I'm like, all these kids are so adorable. Some of them are good, some of them are terrible, and it's great.
It's great.
I love the whole thing.
But
it's
I
like
think
nothing they can't lose right now
because it bumps into something that's so good. I think that's. And we really can close after this. After I got just a kind of a 5-point thing to make about
That's great.
This.
I love it.
Yeah.
Is it all
This
start
reminds
with
me
P?
of your sermons.
But
ahead.
Oh, man. Shots across the bow.
Do you like me, John?
I just love your sermons.
Yeah. But if idols, and I believe this biblically, idols are not inherently evil things. They are good things turned ultimate things.
Yeah.
Where it's like money, sex, relationships, like identity, like those things are not bad things.
Yeah.
They become crushing things when you make them ultimate things. It's like you wanting your kid to do well at these things is a great thing. You being there to support them, to like show up at these things, to like provide for them and all the way. It's like, but when the line is real thin between me being able to really enjoy this and this becoming a thing that I ultimately need you to do for me.
Yeah.
And I may be back and forth on that line 20 times in the same game.
Yeah.
And now, and like my kids are none the wiser, but it's like, that's actually what makes it so difficult. And it's like when it becomes an idol, that's when I need to stay home from.
Yeah. That's a great,
it's like, I need this too much and I love you, or I need to go and I need to repent the whole time internally because this is actually creating something. Anyway, so I don't think it's bad. I think it's we make it something that was never meant to be. Yeah.
I feel so much better about staying in Cape Cod. Missing that game. I really appreciate that.
I'm glad. Yeah.
Needed that.
Would you have felt that if it was like Pensacola? Sorry to all the Pensacola listeners. Yeah.
Hey, I'm Greer, host of the Unfinished Idea podcast, where listeners and I get to journey together to better understand the neurodiverse world. Together with my husband, we have 2 boys and 2 dogs and raising a child with additional needs. Our day-to-day experience isn't being talked about in everyday life, and I see a gap in those leading people who are neurodivergent. Whether you're a parent, a friend, a teacher, or a neighbor, the neurodivergent world is all around us. So this podcast is for you. I have conversations over a cup of tea or coffee, helping to bring awareness about how neurodivergent people experience the world, as well as families who are raising children with different needs. This podcast will share practical help, tips, and the joys, struggles, and differences in being neurodivergent or raising a child who is. Each week, I will spend 30 minutes talking and interviewing others in the neurodiverse space and giving you the opportunity to learn and grow and feel seen and heard by how we interact with each other and the world. Search for The Unfinished Idea in your favorite podcast app and come learn about the neurodivergent world. I'm looking forward to seeing you there.
Hey friends, I'm David McGee. I'm a little crazy, and aren't we all? I want to tell you about a podcast I just launched. It's called A Little Crazy. I teach you how to manage and channel your mental health issues into strength, recovery, and lasting joy. What are my qualifications to lead this conversation? I was once lost and lost it all before I learned to manage better and walk confidently against the grain, becoming a best-selling author and change maker. I dig deep on this podcast to reveal inspirational stories and valuable tools for management, recovery, and personal insight from the perspective of family. Mental health is a family story, as is recovery and finding joy. From crazy faith to love and everything in between, my entertaining guest and I vulnerably smash the stigma and bring down the walls that hold us back. I hope you'll join me on this podcast. Subscribe now on your favorite podcast app by clicking follow, or watch all the episodes over on YouTube. See you soon.